Hello everybody, Gavin McCormack here. Now welcome to this edition of Social Scenarios, and this week we've got a really difficult decision for you to make. Throughout these episodes of Social Scenarios, we are asking to put you into the shoes of an adult who has to make a very difficult decision indeed. And this week we're going to ask you to step into the shoes of a farmer. Yes, that's right, a farmer. Now we may think that a farmer's life is so easy. They wake up in the morning, head out into the field, do some farming, milk their cows and head home for a nice relaxing afternoon. But it's actually far from it. In fact, we rely on farmers heavily around the world to provide us with food for 7.6 billion people. Now this week's social scenario is about harvesting food sustainably. You see, the world is in a bit of a pickle. We have a very significant problem. Around the planet, there are 7.6 billion mouths to feed, and they all require food. Yes, they all require nutrition. And who provides it? Farmers do. Now, one of the ways in which farmers can provide food is by using things called pesticides, herbicides, or fertilizers to make sure that their crops grow quicker and that their crops grow bigger. But there's one big problem. These fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides, they cause significant damage to the world because they poison waterways, they pollute the soil, and they damage the fragile ecosystems around the planet. This week, we want you to put yourselves in the shoes of John. He's in a big problem. He wants to grow lots of crops. He wants them to be big and juicy so he can raise huge profits from his farm and therefore support his family, but he also wants to protect the environment. We want you to consider, should John this week use herbicides and pesticides to get the biggest crops possible, or should he think differently? And we want you to consider the situation from three different perspectives. The first perspective to consider it from is the environment, the ecosystem, the biology, and the life that lives around the farm. You see, there are insects, there are animals, and there is a whole biome that relies on the soil, relies on the air, and relies on the water that runs through it. But if this water is polluted, well, the insects and animals are going to suffer. Number two, there is John's family. His family want money. They need money to pay for their school fees, to pay the mortgage, and to secure their future. But without big crops that sell for large amounts of money at the local market, they are going to have a smaller amount of money. And the third is the customers. The customers in the market, the customers in the shop, who are going to be buying John's produce. They want value for money, which means they want to spend a small amount of money and get a large amount of food of the best quality. How can John survive and make the right decision to make everybody happy? He has to make a decision to protect the environment, sustain his family, and also make his customers happy. But as we know, social scenarios are not as easy as they look. And in the future, you will have to make decisions just like these, and they are very, very tricky indeed. Your job this week is to come together with your group, with your pairs, or with your class and decide what should John do and what would you do if you were a farmer just like John. And remember, in social scenarios, there is no right or wrong answer. The answer is that you have to try to make sure that everybody in this story is happy, and you have to make sure that you are thinking in the eyes of John to see what you can do to make sure that you change the way you live, the way you farm, the way he uses his resources on his local area to make sure that he gets what he wants for all of the people involved in this story, including himself. This week's social scenario is not easy, but it's not meant to be easy. Good luck, and we'll see you in the next social scenario. Goodbye.